Good evening and welcome to the Weekly Voice, presented by VNN, bringing you today's top 10 Canadian news stories on September 12, 2025. Let's get started. Air Canada's ongoing labor dispute with its flight attendants has now moved into mediation after union members overwhelmingly rejected a tentative wage deal earlier this month. The Canadian Union of Public Employees, representing about 10,000 flight attendants, said nearly 99% voted against the offer. The dispute comes after a nationwide strike in August, when attendants walked off the job despite a federal back-to-work order, grounding flights for 3 days. While the rejected deal included compensation for unpaid duties performed before and after flights, wages remained the sticking point. Air Canada offered increases of up to 20% over 4 years, but members said it wasn't enough. Both sides will now work with a mediator, and if that fails, the issue will head to arbitration before the Canada Industrial Relations Board. For now, passengers won't see disruptions as both sides agreed not to strike or lock out staff during mediation. Prime Minister Mark Carney's government is set to introduce new legislation that will strengthen protections for Canadians entering religious, cultural, and community facilities. The bill is expected to create 3 new offenses under the Criminal Code, including a hate crime provision for bias-motivated actions. Carney, speaking to MPs in Edmonton, emphasized that Canadians must feel safe in places of worship, schools, and community centers, especially with rising anti-Semitism and Islamophobia. Justice Minister Sean Fraser explained the law won't regulate protests, but will criminalize intimidation and obstruction aimed at those trying to access these spaces. Religious and cultural leaders have cautiously welcomed the move, saying it's a step forward, but more needs to be done to enhance security and funding for vulnerable communities. With hate crimes nearly doubling since 2020, this legislation is likely to spark national debate over balancing freedom of expression with public safety. Toronto's once red-hot housing market has cooled significantly, leaving sellers grappling with falling prices and fewer bidding wars. According to the Toronto Regional Real Estate Board, the average home price in the GTA fell to just over $1 million in August, a 23% drop from the 2022 peak. Nearly all GTA neighborhoods are now in what experts call underbidding territory, with homes selling below asking price in 98% of communities. Agents say many sellers still cling to pandemic-era valuations, only to face disappointment when homes sit on the market for months. Some neighborhoods like Eastlake, York Mills, and Forest Hill are seeing steep price adjustments, while areas such as Milton and Markham remain slightly more resilient. Real estate professionals stress that accurate pricing, data-driven strategy, and realistic expectations are more important than ever in this new phase of the housing market. Prime Minister Mark Carney and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky will co-host a high-level event at the United Nations General Assembly this month to highlight the abduction of Ukrainian children by Russia. Ukraine estimates at least 19,000 children have been forcibly taken since the invasion began in 2022, with some organizations suggesting the true number may be closer to 35,000. Only about 1,600 have been returned. Reports show that many are subjected to re-education programs, propaganda, and even combat training. The International Criminal Court has already issued arrest warrants for President Vladimir Putin over the deportations. The upcoming UN event is part of the International Coalition for the Return of Ukrainian Children, which includes over 40 member nations. Carney says the gathering is intended to keep global attention on the issue and increase pressure on Russia to ensure these children are safely returned to their families. Global News has announced the layoff of 45 employees, with most of the cuts in British Columbia and Alberta. The move is part of parent company Corus Entertainment's efficiency review, as traditional news outlets continue to struggle with declining revenues. Union representatives called the cuts a devastating blow to local journalism and democracy. Among those affected was award-winning journalist Simon Little, who publicly shared his layoff after a decade in the industry. Corus says the cuts are necessary to adapt to new workflows and technology, though critics argue that these reductions erode local news coverage. This is the latest in a string of newsroom cuts across Canada, following last year's closure of a nearly 100-year-old AM station in Hamilton. Media analysts say the situation underscores the ongoing crisis in Canadian journalism as companies try to balance financial survival with the public's need for quality reporting. A groundbreaking cancer treatment developed in Montreal is offering hope for patients with blood cancers. Known as UM171 therapy, it uses stem cells from donated umbilical cords, multiplied in a lab with the UM171 molecule, to rebuild the immune system after chemotherapy. Early success stories include patients like Francois Lucas Alzate, who credits the therapy with saving his life after leukemia returned and no donor was available. So far, about 120 patients worldwide have received the treatment, and the European Commission has already granted fast-track approval. In Canada, however, the therapy is still several years away from full approval due to rigorous regulatory testing. Researchers believe UM171 could be a turning point in cancer care, but stress patients as the approval process continues. Scientists say that while Canadians may have to wait, this treatment could eventually transform how leukemia and similar cancers are treated. Authorities in Utah have arrested 22-year-old Tyler Robinson in connection with the killing of conservative commentator Charlie Kirk. The arrest came after Robinson confessed to his father, who then worked with a family friend to alert authorities. Governor Spencer Cox confirmed that FBI tips and swift coordination led to Robinson's capture just 33 hours after the shooting. Investigators revealed that Robinson had become increasingly political in recent years and openly expressed disdain for Kirk. Bullet casings found at the scene carried provocative inscriptions, including references to anti-fascist slogans and resistance songs. FBI Director Kesh Patel praised the operation as a historic investigative effort, while Governor Cox urged Americans to confront the dangers of political rage and online hostility. Robinson is now in custody as the investigation continues, and officials say the case highlights the growing risks posed by political polarization in the United States. Eclipse season is here, and it's shaping up to be a transformative week for all zodiac signs. Astrologers say with Jupiter aligning with the Moon, Mercury entering Libra, Venus shifting into Virgo, and a powerful new moon arriving on the 21st, the energy is pushing everyone to face the past and embrace new beginnings. Aries will focus on rebuilding routines, Taurus on collaboration, and Gemini on reassessing values. Cancer will strengthen social ties, while Leo is reminded to rest and embrace self-care. For Virgos, the eclipse falls directly in their sign, marking the start of a major personal transformation. Libras will be pushed to recommit to themselves, Scorpios to heal past wounds, and Sagittarians to seize career shifts. Meanwhile, Capricorns, Aquarians, and Pisces will find clarity in love, long-term goals, and emotional partnerships. Astrologers say it's a week of breakthroughs, where courage and clarity lead the way. Prime Minister Mark Carney has reaffirmed his government's commitment to securing pharmacare agreements with all provinces and territories. Speaking in Edmonton, Carney dismissed speculation that the program might be scaled back, promising equitable deals as quickly as possible. The pharmacare law passed last fall provides single-payer coverage for contraceptives and select diabetes medications, with more expansion expected in the future. So far, Manitoba, British Columbia, Prince Edward Island, and Yukon have signed agreements covering over 60% of the program's $1.5 billion federal budget. Health advocates had warned against a patchwork approach, saying it would create gaps in access. Carney said pharmacare remains a priority alongside dental and childcare programs, despite fiscal challenges. A committee studying universal pharmacare models will release recommendations in October, with findings to be tabled before Parliament later that month. The Carney government has unveiled a fast-track approval process for major infrastructure and energy projects across Canada. Under the new Major Projects Office, Ottawa promises one project, one review, one decision within 2 years. The initial list includes LNG Canada's expansion in Kitimat, the Darlington Nuclear Project in Ontario, a port expansion in Montreal, and major mining projects in Saskatchewan and British Columbia. Collectively, they represent billions in investment and thousands of jobs. While the move is designed to attract investment and streamline development, experts warn of political and economic risks. Pipelines remain excluded due to environmental regulations, and large-scale projects often face delays, cost overruns, and opposition. Carney's personal backing of the initiative ties his leadership directly to its success, making it a potential nation-building legacy or a high-stakes gamble. For now, optimism is high, but execution will be the real test. That's all for today's top stories. Thank you for joining us on The Weekly Voice, presented by VNN. Stay informed, stay engaged, and we'll see you next time.